Imagine feeling safe, calm, and loved in a relationship. Now ask yourself, why doesn't it feel like that right now? We all want love that feels like home, safe, warm, and consistent. But what if the version of love you're chasing isn't love at all? Attachment trauma is what happens when our earliest relationships, usually with parents or caregivers, teach us that love comes with fear, uncertainty, or conditions. It's not always dramatic or obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. A parent who is loving one moment and distant the next, or a caregiver who met your physical needs but ignored your emotional ones. When that happens, your nervous system gets wired to expect inconsistency. As adults, we end up mistaking emotional chaos for chemistry, anxiety for attraction, and codependency for closeness. Today, we're unpacking 7 signs of attachment trauma that are often mistaken for love, so you can break free from the patterns that feel familiar but are quietly hurting you. You complete me sounds romantic, until it becomes, I don't know who I am without you. When we carry attachment trauma, especially from emotionally neglectful or inconsistent caregivers, we often learn that connection equals identity. We look to relationships not just for companionship, but for validation of existence. You might over-prioritize their needs, abandon your hobbies, or feel anxious when you're alone. That panic isn't about love, it's about survival. The fear of being alone is really the fear of being invisible or forgotten, and this often leads to self-abandonment. You mold yourself to what they want, become hyper-attuned to their moods, and forget what you even enjoy. Over time, it becomes less of a relationship and more of a merger, where your worth is based on how close you can stay to them. You might even confuse this constant closeness with intimacy. But being fused with someone isn't the same as being known. Real intimacy requires space to exist as your own person. Without that, the relationship becomes an escape from yourself, rather than a celebration of who you are. True love enhances your identity. Trauma-based love erases it. This fear isn't just about someone leaving, it's about what leaving means. If someone pulls away, even slightly, it can feel like a total emotional collapse. You might send multiple texts, over-apologize, or assume you've done something wrong. This comes from a nervous system that was trained to associate love with loss. Maybe love was only given when you behaved right, so now any emotional distance feels like rejection or punishment. Even healthy, secure love can feel threatening when your inner child is still waiting to be abandoned. That fear can be so overwhelming that it drives you to sabotage the very thing you want most. You might become clingy, demanding, or overly available, which ironically creates the space for your partner to pull away, confirming your biggest fear. It's a painful cycle that feeds itself. Sometimes this fear doesn't even look like desperation. It looks like detachment. You may push people away before they get the chance to leave, thinking you're protecting yourself. But behind that wall is often a terrified heart, just waiting for someone to prove they won't leave. Healing means learning that distance doesn't always mean danger. If the thought of setting a boundary makes you feel guilty or terrified, it might be because, growing up, your needs weren't respected. Or worse, setting limits led to punishment, rejection, or emotional withdrawal. So now, even in adulthood, you might say yes when you mean no, ignore your discomfort to keep the peace, or believe that love means self-sacrifice. But boundaries aren't walls. They're bridges built with respect. They help you stay connected without losing yourself. You might fear that if you set boundaries, your partner will leave. That belief usually stems from past experiences where love was conditional. So you train yourself to tolerate discomfort just to keep someone around. But love that punishes you for having limits isn't love, it's control. Sometimes the fear of setting boundaries is also tied to low self-worth. You might believe your needs aren't valid, or that speaking up makes you difficult. But the truth is, healthy boundaries protect both people and make the relationship more honest, not less. Real love won't make you shrink. It'll celebrate the space where both people can breathe. Ever been in a relationship that felt like a drug? You couldn't sleep, eat, or think straight, but you told yourself, this must be love. That racing heart? That's your nervous system in fight or flight. When you've been wired for chaos, calm love might feel boring. So you chase drama, misread red flags as butterflies, and interpret the roller coaster as intensity. But here's the truth. Real passion doesn't leave you emotionally unstable. Healthy excitement feels expansive, not tense. Sometimes we get so used to unstable love that the absence of chaos feels empty. But there's a difference between emotional numbness and emotional safety. One is the product of burnout. The other is the foundation for peace. You might even mistake jealousy, unpredictability, or possessiveness as signs of deep affection, when really they're indicators of emotional volatility. True love won't leave you guessing. It doesn't play games. It feels like clarity, not confusion. Love isn't supposed to destabilize you. It's supposed to ground you. You notice your partner's mood shift, and suddenly, it's your job to fix it. You tiptoe around their bad days, take on their sadness, or feel like you failed if they're upset. This often comes from being a child who had to manage the emotional world of adults, becoming a parentified child who prioritized others over self. That pattern becomes second nature in relationships. But love doesn't mean emotional absorption. You can support someone without absorbing them. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, feeling like their happiness is your responsibility. But this dynamic builds resentment and emotional exhaustion. In a healthy relationship, each person is responsible for managing their own inner world with support, not codependence. What's important to remember is that empathy doesn't require emotional entanglement. You can hold space for someone without losing your own emotional footing. Love thrives when both people can feel safe without needing to be rescued. Healthy relationships let both people hold their own feelings with compassion, not codependence. It starts innocently. You're thinking about them a lot, but then it turns into checking if they're online, rereading old messages, or spiraling if they take too long to reply. This preoccupation is often your brain trying to prevent abandonment. Hyper-focusing on the other person gives a sense of control in the midst of emotional unpredictability. You might feel like you can't rest unless you know exactly where they stand. But that's not connection. That's anxiety disguised as love. This type of obsession can feel romantic in the beginning, like you're falling hard. But what it really means is your nervous system is on high alert, trying to scan for signs of danger. Real love should make you feel safe, not hypervigilant. And sometimes, the more uncertain the relationship is, the more obsessed we become. Our brains mistake that anxiety for intensity, when really it's just a trauma response trying to make sense of unpredictability. Stability doesn't dull love, it reveals its depth. In real love, you don't need to monitor someone. You trust the bond without obsessing over it. Do you find yourself needing to hear, "I love you" multiple times a day, just to feel okay? Do compliments feel great for 5 minutes, then vanish under doubt? Attachment trauma, especially with emotionally inconsistent caregivers, teaches you not to trust good things. So even when someone offers love, your brain whispers, "But what if they stop?" Reassurance becomes a coping tool, but it never satisfies because the root issue is internal insecurity, not external validation. This can create pressure in the relationship. No amount of "I love yous" will feel like enough, because your brain is always scanning for rejection. Healing means learning to hold on to love without needing constant proof of it. You may even fear being too needy, yet feel unable to stop yourself from seeking confirmation. But that need isn't shameful. It's a sign that there's a wound that wants attention. Learning to soothe that fear from within is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself. Secure love builds from within. The goal isn't to get constant reassurance, it's to feel safe without it. How many of these signs felt familiar? No shame, just self-awareness. You're not alone. If even one of these signs hit home, don't worry, you're not broken. You're just human. And healing is possible. If you're finding this helpful, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for more mental health deep dives like this one. And if someone you know needs to hear this, share it with them gently. Let's be clear. Recognizing these signs doesn't mean you're bad at love. It means you've survived love that hurt. Attachment trauma isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal, so you don't keep mistaking pain for passion. Because real love, it feels calm, safe, seen. And if that sounds foreign to you, maybe it's time to start giving it to yourself first. You deserve love that doesn't feel like chaos. You deserve peace. You weren't too much. You were just trying to be loved in the way you needed, but never received. Healing isn't about fixing yourself. It's about remembering that you were never broken to begin with. Start there, and watch what kind of love finds you.